Hey son, picture this. A chrome-edged booth in a corner diner, 1963, and the vinyl squeaks under you as you slide in. The menu is laminated, sticky in one corner, and it lists a full hot meal for 69 cents. The waitress knows your face. The cook knows your order. And nobody, absolutely nobody, is Instagramming their plate. Tonight, we're diving into something cheaper than your morning latte. Diner food in the 1960s. The meals housewives swore by. The counterculture before there was counterculture. And the laminated rectangles of cardboard that fed a nation for pocket change. If you're finding value in this strange little corner of the internet, I'd be grateful if you'd like the video and subscribe. Only if it genuinely speaks to you. Also, we're now on Spotify, so if you prefer your nostalgia with a side of algorithms, the link's in the description. But first, let's get curious. What did a Tuesday afternoon taste like when a cheeseburger cost 45 cents? How did a housewife stretch $3 into dinner for $5? What was it about a tuna melt that made it gospel? And why did every diner smell exactly the same, like coffee and frying onions and something vaguely maple? These are not rhetorical. These are the breadcrumbs back. It is 1962 now. The jukebox hums. Someone orders pie. The register dings. And everything is about to make sense. Let's start with the menu itself. Not the food yet, just the object. A single piece of laminated cardboard, sometimes 2 pages folded, sticky with decades of handling and smudged with thumbprints that are probably not yours. The typeface is always the same, that industrial sans serif that says efficiency, not elegance, and the prices are printed in a column on the right, like a grocery receipt. The menu lives in a metal holder at the end of every table, wedged between the napkin dispenser and the salt and pepper shakers. Sometimes it stands upright in a little chrome rack. Sometimes it just sits flat on the formica, curling slightly at the edges from heat and humidity, and the 10,000 times someone has wiped it down with a damp rag. The lamination is scratched, cloudy in places, and if you hold it up to the light, you can see where someone once tried to scrape off a stain with a fingernail. The food is organized by category: breakfast, sandwiches, dinners, sides, beverages, desserts. Each section is separated by a thin line, and each item is listed with military precision. 2 eggs, any style with toast and hash browns, 99 cents. Grilled cheese sandwich with chips and pickle, 45 cents. Roast turkey dinner with mashed potatoes, gravy, and vegetable, $1.65. There is no flourish, no description beyond the basics. The menu does not tell you that the gravy is homemade or that the bread is baked fresh. It assumes you already know or that you do not care. Sometimes there are pictures. Small black and white photographs of the food, grainy and overexposed, showing a hamburger that looks like every other hamburger or a piece of pie that looks like the platonic ideal of pie. These pictures do not make the food look better. They make it look honest. This is what you are getting. No surprises, no disappointments, no artful plating or microgreens or foam. Just a cheeseburger on a plate with fries on the side. The back of the menu sometimes lists the history of the diner. Established 1948. Family owned and operated, serving the community for 15 years. This is not marketing. This is a statement of fact, a way of saying we have been here, and we will continue to be here, and you can count on that. In a world that is changing rapidly, where new restaurants open and close within a year, the diner menu is a document of stability. You do not take the menu home. You do not ask for a copy. It stays in its holder, waiting for the next person, accumulating layers of memory and fingerprints, and the occasional splash of ketchup. The menu is not precious. It is functional. And yet, there is something almost sacred about it. The way it distills an entire era of American eating into a single laminated page. No substitutions, no alterations. This is what we have. This is what we serve. Take it or leave it. And everyone takes it. Because the menu, in its simplicity, is a promise of consistency, of value, of a meal that will not surprise you or challenge you or ask anything of you except that you show up hungry and leave satisfied. The laminated gospel according to the 1960s diner is this: food does not have to be fancy to be good, and a meal does not have to be expensive to matter. It is 7 a.m. now. You are sliding into a booth that still smells like last night's gravy, and the waitress has already poured your coffee before you've said a word. Breakfast in a 1960s diner is not brunch. It is not artisanal. It is eggs, toast, bacon, and hash browns for 99 cents. And it arrives in under 5 minutes because the grill cook has been doing this since Eisenhower. The eggs come exactly as you ordered them. Over easy, the yolks are still runny. Scrambled, soft, and slightly wet. Fried hard, the edges crispy and brown. The cook does not ask you to confirm. The waitress wrote it down. The ticket is clipped to the spinning wheel above the grill, and the cook reads it like scripture. 2 eggs over easy. 2 strips of bacon. Hash browns scattered. Toast, white, buttered. The ballet has already begun. The bacon is thick cut, not the thin crispy strips you find in modern diners, but substantial pieces of pork belly that have been fried in their own fat until they are crispy on the edges and still chewy in the middle. They sit on your plate leaking grease into the hash browns, which is not a problem, but a feature. The hash browns are shredded potatoes, fried on the flat top until they form a loose patty, golden brown and crispy on the outside, soft and steaming on the inside. They taste like salt and butter and the ghost of every other breakfast that has been cooked on that same grill. The toast arrives on a separate plate, 2 slices of white bread, lightly browned, buttered while still hot. So the butter melts into the bread in pools in the little craters left by air bubbles. There is no jam, no jelly, no preserves unless you ask for them, and even then they come in those little plastic cups with the peel-back foil tops. The toast is a vehicle. It exists to soak up egg yolk, to provide structure to the meal, to give your hands something to do between bites of eggs and bacon. The coffee is strong and hot and infinite. The waitress circles the dining room with a pot in each hand, regular in the orange handle and decaf in the brown, and she refills your cup every time it drops below half full. You do not ask for a refill. She simply appears, tips the pot, and moves on. The coffee tastes like coffee, not like a specific region or roasting method or tasting notes of chocolate and citrus. It tastes like morning, like work, like the thing that makes the rest of the day possible. This breakfast is not a leisurely affair. You are not lingering over the newspaper, not having a long conversation with your companion, not checking your phone, because phones are still attached to walls. You are eating efficiently and purposefully, because you have somewhere to be. The factory shift starts at 8. The office opens at 8:30. The kids need to be at school by 9. Breakfast is fuel, consumed quickly, paid for in cash, and forgotten by noon. But here is the thing. It works. You leave the diner full, caffeinated, and ready to face the day, and you have spent less than $2, including the tip. The breakfast that built America is not fancy. It is not Instagrammable. It is eggs and bacon and toast and coffee, served hot and fast by people who have mastered the routine so completely that it looks like muscle memory. And for a generation of Americans, this is how every day begins. Here is a fact. The grilled cheese sandwich in a diner is never gourmet. It is 2 slices of white bread, American cheese, butter, and a flat-top grill set to medium-high. That is the entire recipe. And yet, when it arrives on a white plate with a pickle spear and a handful of chips, it feels like communion. There is something about the simplicity of it, the way the bread crisps at the edges and the cheese pulls when you bite. The bread is always white, not sourdough, not whole wheat, not artisanal ciabatta from a local bakery. White bread, sliced uniformly, soft and slightly sweet. The kind that comes in a plastic bag with red and yellow dots on the wrapper. The cook takes 2 slices, butters one side of each, and places them butter side down on the grill. The butter sizzles immediately, and the bread begins to brown. The cheese is American. Not cheddar, not Swiss, not Gruyere. American cheese, the kind that comes in individually wrapped slices, bright orange and unnaturally smooth. The cook peels back the plastic, lays 2 slices on the bread, and tops it with the second slice of bread, butter side up. Then comes the press. A metal spatula holds the sandwich down, flattening it slightly, encouraging the cheese to melt and the bread to brown evenly. The cook flips it once, maybe twice, checking the color, adjusting the heat. When it is done, the grilled cheese is golden brown on both sides, crispy but not burnt, and the cheese inside has melted completely, turning into a hot, gooey mass that stretches when you pull the sandwich apart. The cook cuts it diagonally, corner to corner, because that is how grilled cheese sandwiches are cut, and he slides it onto a white ceramic plate. A pickle spear goes on the side, along with a handful of ridged potato chips, the kind that are too salty and too good to stop eating. You pick up half of the sandwich. It is still hot, almost too hot to hold, and when you bite into it, the cheese stretches and clings to your lip. The bread crunches, the cheese oozes, and for a moment, the world makes sense. This is not complicated. This is not trying to be anything other than what it is. A grilled cheese sandwich in a 1960s diner is comfort food in its purest form. The thing you order when you are sick or sad or simply in need of something reliable. Children order grilled cheese. So do factory workers on lunch break. Housewives running errands downtown. And businessmen who have grown tired of the same chicken salad sandwich they have been eating for a decade. The grilled cheese does not discriminate. It does not judge. It simply exists, available at any hour, ready to be made, 45 cents plus tax. There is no variation. You do not add tomato or bacon or avocado. You do not substitute the bread or upgrade the cheese. The grilled cheese is a fixed point, a constant, and the refusal to change it is part of what makes it sacred. In a decade of rapid change, of shifting social norms and political upheaval and technological advancement, the grilled cheese remains exactly the same. 2 slices of white bread, American cheese, butter, heat. That is the gospel according to the diner, and it is enough. Every diner has a blue plate special, and every day it is different. Monday is meatloaf. Tuesday is pot roast. Wednesday is fried chicken. There is no debate, no substitutions, and certainly no asking what is fresh. What is fresh is whatever the cook made this morning in a pan large enough to feed 40, and you will eat it because it costs $1.25 and includes 2 sides. The blue plate special is named for the actual blue plates on which it was traditionally served, heavy ceramic dishes with a slight rim, divided into sections like a cafeteria tray. Most diners have moved away from the literal blue plate by the 1960s, but the name has stuck and the concept remains. The special is the deal of the day, the reason housewives and factory workers and traveling salesmen make a point of stopping in. It is the most food for the least money, and it changes daily to keep things interesting and to use up whatever the cook has in the walk-in. Monday is meatloaf because weekends generate leftover ground beef, and the cook is tired from the Sunday rush. The meatloaf is dense and savory, made with breadcrumbs and onions and a tomato-based glaze on top, baked in a large loaf pan and sliced thick. It comes with mashed potatoes, because mashed potatoes go with everything, and a vegetable, usually green beans or carrots or corn, boiled until soft and seasoned with butter and salt. A dinner roll sits on the side, and if you are lucky, there is gravy. Tuesday is pot roast, which means the cook started a large beef roast in the oven early this morning, surrounded it with potatoes and carrots and onions, and let it braise for hours until the meat is falling apart and the vegetables have absorbed all the flavor. Pot roast is forgiving. It does not require precision or technique, just time and patience, and the result is a meal that feels like someone's grandmother made it. The meat is tender, the gravy is rich, and the carrots are soft enough to cut with a fork. Wednesday is fried chicken, which is a production. The cook has to bread and fry each piece individually, and by noon, the kitchen smells like hot oil and seasoned flour. The chicken is not fancy. It is cut-up fryer chicken, dredged in flour mixed with salt and pepper and maybe a little paprika, then fried in a cast-iron skillet or a deep fryer until the skin is golden and crispy. It comes with mashed potatoes and coleslaw, because that is what fried chicken comes with, and a biscuit if the cook is feeling generous. Thursday is pork chops with applesauce. Friday is fried fish, because Catholics are not supposed to eat meat on Fridays, and the diner is happy to accommodate with breaded cod or haddock, fried until crispy and served with tartar sauce and lemon wedges. Saturday might be roast beef or ham or turkey, depending on what is available and what the cook feels like making. The tyranny of the day is absolute. You do not walk into a diner on Monday and order the fried chicken. It is not available. The cook has not made it, and he will not make it just for you. If you want fried chicken, come back on Wednesday. If you want pot roast, come back on Tuesday. The Blue Plate Special trains you to think in rhythms, to structure your week around meals, to remember that meatloaf is Monday and plan accordingly. And people do. Regulars know the schedule. They show up on the right day for their favorite dish, and they order it without looking at the menu. The Blue Plate Special is not just a meal. It is a ritual, a way of marking time, a small piece of order in a chaotic world. If the grilled cheese is communion, the tuna melt is baptism. It is the same white bread, the same American cheese, but now there is tuna salad involved, mixed with mayonnaise and celery, and just enough relish to make it interesting. It is grilled until the cheese melts into the tuna and the bread turns golden, and it arrives on your plate like a revelation. Housewives order it. Businessmen order it. Teenagers order it after school. The tuna salad is made fresh every morning, or at least fresh enough. A large can of tuna is drained and dumped into a metal mixing bowl, then mixed with mayonnaise, diced celery for crunch, a spoonful of sweet pickle relish for tang, and a pinch of salt and pepper. Some cooks add a squeeze of lemon juice. Some add a dash of onion powder. The recipe varies slightly from diner to diner, but the fundamentals remain the same. The tuna salad is spreadable, not chunky, and it has a creamy consistency that holds together when you bite into the sandwich. The cook takes 2 slices of white bread, spreads a generous layer of tuna salad on one slice, lays 2 slices of American cheese on top of the tuna, and covers it with a second slice of bread. Then he butters the outside of both slices and places the sandwich on the grill, pressing it down with a spatula. The butter sizzles. The bread browns. The cheese begins to melt, and as it does, it seeps into the tuna salad, creating a hot, gooey mixture that is greater than the sum of its parts. When the tuna melt arrives at your table, it is cut diagonally, the cheese still bubbling slightly, the bread crispy and golden. A pickle spear and a handful of chips accompany it, and if you ordered right, a cup of tomato soup sits next to the plate, because tuna melt and tomato soup is one of the great culinary partnerships of the 20th century. You pick up half of the sandwich, and immediately the cheese stretches, forming a long strand between the sandwich and your mouth. You bite down, and the flavors hit all at once, the salty tuna, the creamy mayonnaise, the tangy relish, the melted cheese, the crispy bread. The tuna melt is not health food. It is mayonnaise on bread with more mayonnaise melted on top. It is indulgent and rich and absolutely delicious, and it costs 60 cents. You eat it slowly, savoring each bite, dipping the corner of the sandwich into your tomato soup, feeling the warmth spread through your chest. This is comfort food in its most elemental form, the kind of meal that makes you forget about whatever was bothering you when you walked in. Housewives order the tuna melt because it is familiar, because it reminds them of the tuna sandwiches their mothers made, but elevated slightly by the addition of melted cheese and grilled bread. Businessmen order it because it is more substantial than a regular sandwich, but not as heavy as a burger. Teenagers order it because it is cheap and filling and tastes good. The tuna melt does not belong to any one demographic. It belongs to everyone. There is a theology to the tuna melt, a set of unspoken rules that govern its preparation and consumption. The bread must be white. The cheese must be American. The tuna salad must be creamy, not dry. The sandwich must be grilled, not toasted. And it must be served hot with the cheese still melting and the bread still crispy. These rules are not written down anywhere. They are simply known, passed from cook to cook, from diner to diner, a shared understanding of what a tuna melt is and what it is supposed to be. And when you take that first bite, when the cheese stretches and the tuna salad oozes and the bread crunches, you understand. You understand why people have been ordering this sandwich for decades, why it appears on every diner menu in America, why it has survived trends and fads, and the rise of gourmet cuisine. The tuna melt is not trying to be anything other than itself, and that, in the end, is enough. A cheeseburger in 1963 cost 45 cents. Let that settle. 45 cents for a beef patty, a slice of cheese, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles, and a soft bun that has been lightly toasted on the grill. Add 10 cents for fries. Another nickel for a Coke. You have just bought lunch for 60 cents, and you are full. The economics of the diner cheeseburger are almost impossible to understand from a modern perspective. 45 cents in 1963 is roughly $4 today, adjusted for inflation, which still seems impossibly cheap. But the diner operates on volume and efficiency, not margins. The cook makes a dozen burgers at once, all lined up on the flat top, and the ingredients are simple and cheap. Ground beef, purchased in bulk. Buns, delivered fresh every morning from a local bakery. Cheese, American, the same slices used for grilled cheese sandwiches. Vegetables, prepped at the start of the shift and stored in metal containers along the line. The burger itself is straightforward. A quarter-pound of ground beef formed into a patty, not too thin and not too thick, seasoned with salt and pepper and placed on the hot grill. It cooks for a few minutes on each side, developing a crust, and just before it is done, a slice of cheese is laid on top to melt. The bun is split and placed cut side down on the grill to toast lightly, picking up a little of the beef fat and char. Then the burger is assembled. Bottom bun, lettuce, tomato, onion, pickles, the burger with melted cheese, and the top bun. No sauce unless you ask for it, and even then, it is usually just ketchup and mustard squirted from plastic bottles. The cheeseburger arrives on a white plate with a pile of fries on the side, and it is perfect. Not gourmet, not fancy, not made with grass-fed beef or artisanal cheese or a brioche bun. Just a cheeseburger made exactly the way cheeseburgers have been made for decades, reliable and consistent and deeply satisfying. You pick it up with both hands, compressing it slightly so you can fit it in your mouth, and you take a bite. The beef is juicy, the cheese is melted, the vegetables are cold and crisp, and the bun is soft, with just a little bit of crunch from the toasted edges. This is not a burger you photograph. This is a burger you eat. You eat it quickly because it is hot and because you are hungry. And because the longer you wait, the more the juices soak into the bun and the harder it becomes to hold. The fries are eaten with your other hand, dipped in ketchup, or eaten plain, salty and crispy, and just greasy enough to leave a residue on your fingers. The Coke is cold and fizzy, the carbonation cutting through the richness of the beef and cheese. The cheeseburger economy is built on repetition and scale. The cook makes burgers all day, every day, and he has the process down to a science. Each patty is cooked for the same amount of time. Each burger is assembled in the same order. The result is a product that is identical every time you order it, whether you are in a diner in New York or California or Texas. The cheeseburger is America's most democratic food, available to everyone, affordable to everyone, and loved by everyone. And here is the miracle. It tastes good. Not just acceptable, not just adequate, but genuinely good. The beef is flavorful. The cheese is melty. The vegetables add texture and freshness. And the bun holds it all together without falling apart. The cheeseburger does not need to be elevated or improved or deconstructed. It is already exactly what it needs to be. For 45 cents, you are not just buying a meal. You are buying into a system, a culture, a way of life. You are participating in the great American experiment of feeding everyone, quickly and cheaply, without sacrificing quality or flavor. The cheeseburger is not haute cuisine. It is not trying to be. It is simply food, honest and unpretentious, and that is its genius. There is always soup. It is always the soup of the day, and the day is never specified. Sometimes it is tomato, sometimes it is chicken noodle. Once in a while, if the cook is feeling continental, it is split pea. The soup arrives in a white bowl with a handful of crackers wrapped in cellophane, and it is always, always too hot to eat immediately. The soup of the day is whatever the cook made in a large pot this morning, or possibly yesterday afternoon, depending on the type of soup and the cook's schedule. Soup is forgiving. It can sit on a back burner for hours, gently simmering, getting thicker and more flavorful as the day goes on. By the dinner rush, the chicken noodle has reduced slightly, the broth more concentrated, the noodles softer. The tomato soup has darkened a shade, the acidity mellowed by time and heat. You do not choose the soup. You order the soup of the day, and you get whatever the soup of the day is. The waitress does not ask if you would prefer chicken noodle or tomato. She writes down soup on her pad, clips the ticket to the wheel, and the cook ladles a generous portion into a white ceramic bowl. The bowl is hot, too hot to touch comfortably, and steam rises from the surface in lazy spirals. If it is tomato soup, it is thick and smooth and bright red, made from canned tomatoes, a little cream, and seasonings. It tastes like childhood, like grilled cheese sandwiches and rainy afternoons, and it costs 25 cents. You blow on each spoonful before eating, and even then it burns your tongue slightly. The crackers are Sultans, 4 or 6 in a cellophane packet, and you crumble them into the soup, watching them float on the surface before they absorb the liquid and sink. If it is chicken noodle, it is clear and golden, with chunks of chicken, sliced carrots, celery, and wide egg noodles. The broth is salty and rich, made from boiling chicken bones and vegetables for hours until all the flavor has been extracted. The chicken is tender, pulled from the bones and torn into bite-sized pieces. The noodles are soft, almost mushy, but in a comforting way. You eat it slowly, spooning up the broth and vegetables, and when you are done, you tip the bowl and drink the last bit of broth straight from the bowl, because no one is watching, and it is delicious. Split pea soup is less common, but when it appears, it is thick and green and hearty, made with dried split peas, ham hocks, onions, and carrots. It has the consistency of porridge, and it sticks to the spoon when you lift it. The flavor is earthy and smoky from the ham, and it is filling enough to be a meal on its own. Split pea soup is divisive. People either love it or hate it, and the diner cook does not care which camp you fall into. He made a pot because he had a ham bone left over from yesterday's dinner special, and split peas are cheap. The mystery of the soup of the day is part of its charm. You do not know what you are getting until the waitress tells you, and by then you have already committed. But the mystery is also a test of trust. You are trusting the cook to make something good, something worth 25 cents, something that will warm you from the inside out. And most of the time, the cook delivers. Soup in a 1960s diner is not fancy. It is not made with exotic ingredients or complex techniques. It is simple, honest food made in large quantities and served hot. It is a way to use up leftovers, to stretch ingredients, to provide something warm and comforting on a cold day. And it is always, always too hot to eat immediately, which means you have to slow down, blow on your spoon, and take your time. In a world that is increasingly fast-paced, the soup of the day forces you to pause, if only for a moment. Monday is Meatloaf Day. This is not a suggestion. This is cosmic law. The meatloaf is dense, made with ground beef, breadcrumbs, onions, and an egg to hold it together, baked in a loaf pan until it firms up, then sliced into thick slabs and served with brown gravy. It comes with mashed potatoes and green beans, and it costs $1.35. The meatloaf is made early in the morning before the diner opens because it needs time to bake and cool slightly before it can be sliced. The cook mixes the ground beef with breadcrumbs soaked in milk, finely diced onions, an egg, salt, pepper, and maybe a little Worcestershire sauce. He packs the mixture into a large loaf pan, smooths the top, and spreads a layer of ketchup or tomato sauce over it. The pan goes into the oven, and for the next hour, the smell of baking meatloaf fills the kitchen. When the meatloaf is done, it is firm and browned on top, and the fat has rendered out into the pan, creating a base for gravy. The cook lets it rest, then turns it out onto a cutting board and slices it into thick pieces, each one holding together perfectly, no crumbling or falling apart. The slices go onto white plates, 2 per serving, and the cook ladles brown gravy over them, the gravy made from the pan drippings, a little flour, and beef broth. The mashed potatoes are real, not instant, made from boiled potatoes that have been mashed with butter and milk until smooth. They are piled next to the meatloaf, and more gravy goes over them, pooling in the little crater on top. The green beans are canned, boiled until soft, seasoned with butter and salt, and placed on the other side of the plate. A dinner roll completes the meal, soft and warm, brushed with butter. You cut into the meatloaf with the side of your fork, no knife needed, and you take a bite. It is savory and moist, the flavor of beef and onions and a hint of tomato from the glaze. The gravy adds richness, and the mashed potatoes provide creamy contrast. You alternate bites of meatloaf, potatoes, and green beans, using the dinner roll to soak up the gravy, and by the time you are done, your plate is clean. Meatloaf is comfort food. It is the meal your mother made on Mondays, using up leftover bread and the ground beef she bought on sale over the weekend. It is economical and filling and easy to make in large quantities, which makes it perfect for a diner. The cook can bake 4 or 5 loaves at once, and each loaf yields 10 or 12 slices, enough to feed 50 or 60 people. The leftovers, if there are any, can be used for meatloaf sandwiches the next day, served cold on white bread with mayonnaise and lettuce. There is no shame in ordering meatloaf. It is not a lesser meal. Not something you order when you cannot afford a steak. It is a legitimate choice, a Monday tradition, and people who know diners know to come on Monday for the meatloaf. Regulars do not even look at the menu. They sit down, and when the waitress comes over, they say meatloaf, and she writes it down without question. The comfort of meatloaf is not just in the taste. It is in the ritual, the predictability, the knowledge that every Monday without fail, the meatloaf will be there. In a decade of uncertainty, of social change and political turmoil and economic anxiety, meatloaf on Monday is a fixed point. It does not change. It does not disappoint. It simply is, and that is enough. The coffee is always on. It is brewed in a large percolator behind the counter, the kind with the little glass bubble on top that burps as it percolates, and it has been sitting there since 6 in the morning. By the time you order it at 2 in the afternoon, it is strong enough to strip paint. The waitress refills your cup without asking. The percolator holds 2 or 3 gallons of coffee, enough to serve 50 or 60 cups before it needs to be refilled. The coffee sits on a burner, keeping warm, and as the hours pass, it gets stronger and more bitter. By mid-afternoon, the coffee has a thick, almost syrupy quality, and the flavor is intense, dark, and roasted and slightly burnt. This is not specialty coffee. This is not single-origin beans from a small farm in Guatemala. This is diner coffee made from pre-ground beans purchased in bulk from a restaurant supply company. And it tastes like every other cup of diner coffee you have ever had. You do not order coffee for the flavor. You order it for the caffeine, for the warmth, for the ritual of holding a hot cup in your hands while you wait for your food. The coffee comes in a thick white ceramic mug, heavy and sturdy, the kind that can be dropped on the floor and not break. The mug has probably been in circulation since the diner opened, and it has a chip on the rim and a faint brown stain inside that no amount of washing can remove. The waitress pours your coffee as soon as you sit down, before you have even looked at the menu. She does not ask if you want coffee. She assumes you do, and she is almost always right. The coffee is hot, almost too hot, and you blow on it before taking a sip. It is bitter, strong, and oddly comforting. You add cream from the small metal pitcher on the table and sugar from the glass dispenser, and you stir it with a spoon that has been polished by thousands of washings. The refill culture is absolute. You never have to ask. The waitress circulates the dining room with a pot in each hand, and every time your cup drops below half full, she appears, tips the pot, and fills it back up. You could sit at a diner booth for 3 hours, and your coffee cup would never be empty. This is part of the social contract. You buy 1 cup of coffee, and you get as many refills as you want. 10 cents for bottomless coffee. It is one of the great deals in American dining. The coffee is a social lubricant. It gives you something to do with your hands while you wait for your food, something to sip between bites, something to linger over after your meal is done. People do not come to diners just to eat. They come to sit, to read the newspaper, to have a conversation with a friend, and the coffee is what makes that possible. You can sit in a booth for an hour, nursing a single cup of coffee, and no one will ask you to leave. The diner is not trying to turn tables. It is providing a space, and the coffee is your ticket to stay. Some people drink their coffee black. Most add cream and sugar. A few take it with just cream or just sugar, and the waitress remembers. She knows that you take it black, that your wife takes it with cream and 2 sugars, and she pours accordingly. This is part of her job, part of the expertise she has developed over years of working the same shift, and it is one of the small ways she makes you feel seen. The coffee is not good. Let's be honest about that. It is burnt and bitter and has probably been sitting on the burner for 6 hours. But it is consistent, and it is always there, and in a way that is more important than quality. The coffee is a constant, a baseline, a thing you can count on. And in the uncertain world of the 1960s, that kind of reliability matters. Pie is not dessert. Pie is its own category, its own gravitational pull. The pie case sits on the counter near the register, a rotating glass display with slices of cherry, apple, lemon meringue, coconut cream, and chocolate cream pie lined up like soldiers. Each slice is thick, cut with a spatula and placed on a small plate, sometimes with a dollop of whipped cream, sometimes just naked and honest. The pies are made fresh, or at least fresh enough. Some diners make their own pies from scratch, rolling out the dough and preparing the fillings in the early morning hours before the doors open. Other diners buy their pies from a local bakery, delivered in cardboard boxes and transferred to the pie case. Either way, the pies are real, not mass-produced, not frozen and thawed, and you can taste the difference. The fruit pies are the classics. Apple pie, made with tart apples, cinnamon, and sugar, baked until the filling is bubbling and the crust is golden brown. Cherry pie, bright red and sweet, the cherries suspended in a thick syrup that oozes when you cut into it. Blueberry pie, less common, but deeply satisfying. The berries tart and the filling staining your teeth blue. These pies come with a scoop of vanilla ice cream if you ask, but most people eat them plain. The fruit filling still warm, the crust flaky and buttery. The cream pies are richer. Lemon meringue with a tart lemon custard filling and a tall pile of meringue on top, toasted lightly with a kitchen torch or browned in the oven. The meringue is sweet and airy, and it contrasts beautifully with the sharp tang of the lemon. Coconut cream pie, made with a vanilla custard filling mixed with shredded coconut and topped with whipped cream and more coconut. Chocolate cream pie, smooth and dark, made with real chocolate and topped with whipped cream or meringue. The pies sit in the case all day, rotating slowly, and you can see them as you walk into the diner, as you wait to pay your check, as you pass by on your way to the restroom. The pie case is a siren call. Even if you came in just for coffee, even if you are full from lunch, the sight of those pies makes you reconsider. Just a slice, just a small slice, 15 cents. How can you say no? You order pie, and the waitress opens the back of the case, pulls out the slice you pointed to, and sets it in front of you with a fork. You do not need a knife. The pie is soft enough to cut with the side of the fork, and you take a bite. The crust is buttery and flaky. The filling is sweet and rich, and for a moment, everything else fades away. This is not health food. This is not low-calorie or sugar-free or made with almond flour. This is pie, real pie, made with butter and sugar and flour and eggs, and it is glorious. Pie is eaten at all hours. Some people have pie for breakfast, a slice of apple pie with their morning coffee, because why not? Others have it mid-afternoon, a little pick-me-up between lunch and dinner. Still others have it after dinner, the traditional dessert slot. Though in a diner, tradition is more of a suggestion than a rule. You can have pie whenever you want, and no one will judge you. There is a social aspect to pie. If you are sitting at the counter, eating a slice of pie, the person next to you might comment on your choice. Lemon meringue, good choice. Or, you should try the cherry, it's better today. Pie creates conversations, small moments of connection between strangers, a shared appreciation for something simple and sweet. The pie case is also a point of pride for the diner. A good pie case, well-stocked and rotating with seasonal offerings, signals that the diner cares about quality, that it takes dessert seriously, that it understands pie is not just an afterthought, but an essential part of the experience. A diner with a sad, half-empty pie case, with one lonely slice of dried-out apple pie sitting under the glass, is a diner that has given up. But in a good diner, in a 1960s diner that knows what it is doing, the pie case is full. The pies are fresh. The meringue is tall. And when you walk in, the first thing you do, even before you sit down, is glance at the pie case to see what is available. Because pie is not dessert. Pie is the fifth food group, and you do not leave without it. Her name is probably Marge or Dottie or Fran, and she has been working this shift for 12 years. She knows what you order before you say it. She knows you take your coffee black, your eggs over easy, your toast lightly buttered. She calls you hon or dear sweetie, not in a condescending way, but in a way that makes you feel like you belong. She wears a uniform, not because she wants to, but because it is part of the job. A polyester dress in pale blue or pink or mint green, with white piping along the collar and pockets. White sneakers with thick soles, because she will be on her feet for the next 8 hours. A small apron tied around her waist, the pockets stuffed with order pads, pens, and spare change. Her hair is done, set in rollers this morning and sprayed into place, and she wears a little makeup, lipstick, and powder, because you still make an effort even if you are just serving eggs. She knows everyone, not just the regulars, but the semi-regulars, the once-a-monthers, the traveling salesmen who stop in every few weeks. She remembers faces, orders, preferences, and small details from previous conversations. She knows that Bob from the hardware store is allergic to onions, that Mrs. Henderson always wants her bacon extra crispy, that the man in the gray suit takes his hamburger without pickles. This is not written down anywhere. This is memory, honed by repetition and genuine interest in people. When you walk in, she greets you by name. Hey, Charlie, usual spot. She does not wait for you to confirm. She is already walking toward your booth, already pulling the coffee pot from the burner, already turning over your cup and pouring before you have even sat down. She sets a menu in front of you, but you both know you will not look at it. You order the same thing every time. 2 eggs over easy, bacon, hash browns, wheat toast. She writes it down anyway because the ticket needs to go to the kitchen, and she clips it to the wheel and spins it toward the cook. She moves through the dining room like a dancer, pot in one hand, order pad in the other, weaving between tables and chairs, never spilling, never bumping, never slowing down. She refills coffee without being asked, brings extra napkins before you need them, clears plates as soon as you are done. She is efficient, but not rushed. She does not make you feel like you are taking up space, or that she has better things to do. She makes you feel like serving you is exactly where she wants to be. The tips are not great. A dime on a $1 check, a quarter on a $2 check. She is not getting rich doing this. But the money is steady, and the work is honest, and there is something satisfying about doing a job well, about knowing that people count on you, that they come back week after week because they know you will take care of them. She complains sometimes about her feet or her back or the customer who stiffed her on the tip, but she shows up every day, on time, ready to work. She knows things about you that your own family might not know. She knows you have been coming in alone since your wife passed. She knows you just got laid off from the factory. She knows your daughter is getting married next month. You tell her these things, not because she asks, but because she listens. She pours your coffee and she listens, and sometimes that is all you need. When you leave, she thanks you by name. Thanks, Charlie. See you tomorrow. And you will. You will come back tomorrow, and the day after that. Because the food is good and the coffee is hot, but mostly because Marge knows your name and your order and makes you feel like you matter. In a big, impersonal world, the diner waitress who knows your name is a small miracle, a reminder that someone is paying attention, that you are seen. The counter itself is a phenomenon. A long formica surface, usually pale yellow or mint green. with chrome-trimmed stools bolted to the floor every 18 inches. You sit at the counter when you are alone, when you want to eat fast, or when you simply prefer the company of strangers who are also eating in silence. The counter runs the length of the diner, or at least the length of the kitchen, so you can watch the cook work. You can see him crack eggs on the edge of the griddle, flip pancakes with a flick of his wrist, toast bread on the flat top, and plate everything with practiced efficiency. There is no mystery to diner food. You see exactly how it is made, and there is something reassuring about that transparency. The cook is not hiding anything. He is not plating food in a back room where you cannot see. He is right there, 2 feet away, and you can watch your burger sizzle. The stools are round, upholstered in red or black vinyl, and they spin. This is important. The ability to spin your stool, to swivel left or right, to turn and look at someone without moving your whole body is a small pleasure. Children spin on the stools until their parents tell them to stop. Adults spin more subtly, adjusting their position, shifting their weight. The stools are bolted to the floor, but the seats rotate freely, and over the years the mechanism has been worn smooth by 10,000 rotations. Sitting at the counter is different from sitting in a booth. At a booth, you are facing someone, engaged in conversation, occupying a defined space. At the counter, you are facing the kitchen, and the person next to you is beside you, not across from you. You do not have to make eye contact. You do not have to sustain a conversation. You can sit in companionable silence, eating your eggs, drinking your coffee, occasionally glancing at the person next to you, or exchanging a brief comment about the weather. This is the counterculture before counterculture. A culture of solitary people sitting side by side, not lonely but alone, eating their meals in a space that is public but not intrusive. The counter is for truck drivers passing through town, for salesmen between appointments, for widowers who do not want to cook for one, for night shift workers coming off third shift at 6 in the morning. The counter is for people who need food and coffee and a place to sit, but not necessarily conversation. Sometimes conversation happens anyway. The man on the stool next to you asks you to pass the salt. You pass it. He thanks you. A moment later, he comments on the weather, or the news, or the game last night. You respond briefly, and a conversation begins. It is not a deep conversation, not an exchange of life stories, just small talk, the kind of surface-level connection that happens between strangers who find themselves in the same place at the same time. By the time you both leave, you will have forgotten each other's names, if you even exchange them. But for 15 minutes, you were not alone. The waitress works the counter differently than she works the booths. At the counter, she is closer, more present, moving back and forth behind the bar, pouring coffee, delivering plates, wiping down the surface with a damp rag. She might lean on the counter while she talks to you, resting for a moment, giving her feet a break. She might tell you about her day, complain about a difficult customer, share a joke the cook just told her. The counter creates intimacy without demanding it. The counter also moves faster. You do not linger at the counter the way you might linger in a booth. You eat, you drink your coffee, you pay your check, and you leave. The turnover is higher, which suits the diner's business model. But even in the speed, there is comfort. The counter is efficient, predictable, reliable. You know what you are getting. You sit, you eat, you go. And tomorrow, if you want, you can come back and do it again. It is 5:30 now, and the diner is packed. Every booth is full. Every stool is occupied. And the cook is working 3 orders at once on the flat top. The air smells like frying onions and hamburger grease and something sweet, maybe pie or pancake syrup. The jukebox is playing something by the Everly Brothers, and the waitress is moving between tables with a pot of coffee in one hand and a notepad in the other. The dinner rush happens every night, as predictable as the sunset. Factory workers getting off the day shift, office workers who do not want to go home yet, families who are too tired to cook. They all converge on the diner at the same time, and for 2 hours, the place is chaos. Controlled chaos, but chaos nonetheless. The door keeps opening, letting in bursts of cold air or hot air depending on the season, and the waitress keeps seating people, handing out menus, taking orders, running food. The cook is in the zone. He has 4 burgers on the grill, 3 orders of eggs, a grilled cheese, 2 patty melts, and a blue plate special all going at once. He knows exactly where each item is in its cooking process, when to flip, when to add cheese, when to pull something off the heat. His movements are economical, efficient, no wasted motion. He does not look at the tickets anymore. He has memorized them. His hands move automatically, cracking eggs, flipping burgers, buttering bread. The waitress is doing mental math as she moves. Table 4 needs ketchup. Table 7 needs a refill. The man at the counter asked for his check 5 minutes ago, and she has not had time to write it up yet. She carries plates on her arms, 3 or 4 at a time, balanced perfectly, and she delivers them without checking the ticket because she remembers who ordered what. Table 2, cheeseburger, no onions. Table 5, meatloaf special, extra gravy. Counter, tuna melt, side of fries. The noise level rises. Conversations overlap. Silverware clinks against plates. The register dings every time someone pays. The cook shouts order up, and the waitress grabs the plates and delivers them, then circles back to refill coffee. Clear empty plates. Take new orders. There is no downtime, no moment to catch her breath. The dinner rush is relentless, a 2-hour sprint, and she will not stop moving until 7:30 when the crowd finally thins. In the booths, families are eating together. Parents and children, the kids coloring on the paper placemats with crayons the waitress brought, the parents drinking coffee and sharing a piece of pie. In the corner, a couple on a date, young, maybe high school sweethearts, splitting a cheeseburger and a milkshake because money is tight. At the counter, a row of solitary men eating in silence, reading newspapers, or staring at the grill. The jukebox cycles through its playlist. The Everly Brothers give way to Patsy Cline, then Roy Orbison, then something upbeat and forgettable. No one is really listening, but everyone would notice if it stopped. The music is part of the atmosphere, part of the texture of the dinner rush, and it blends with the sounds of cooking and conversation and the hiss of the coffee pot. By 6:30, the rush is starting to ease. A few booths have emptied. A few stools have opened up. The waitress has a moment to wipe down the counter, to refill the napkin dispensers, to take a breath. The cook scrapes down the grill, clears away the scraps of onion and cheese, and starts prepping for the next wave if there is one. The air is thick with grease and steam, and everyone is sweating, but the rhythm holds. This is what the diner does best. It feeds people, quickly and efficiently at the exact moment they need to be fed. The dinner rush is not glamorous. It is hard work, hot and fast and demanding. But there is a satisfaction in it, in keeping up, in getting every order out correctly, in making sure no one waits too long. The diner at 5:30 is America at its most democratic. Everyone eating the same food, sitting in the same booths, paying the same prices. And for 2 hours, it works. Salisbury steak is a hamburger patty with delusions of grandeur. It is the same ground beef, formed into an oval instead of a circle, smothered in brown gravy and served with mashed potatoes and peas. It costs $1.50, 20 cents more than meatloaf, because it has a fancier name and a more refined shape. The name is pure marketing. Salisbury steak sounds elegant, sophisticated, like something you might order in a proper restaurant. But it is just a hamburger patty, dressed up and given a new identity. The cook forms the ground beef into oval patties, seasons them with salt and pepper, and fries them on the grill until they are browned on both sides. Then he transfers them to a pan, covers them with brown gravy, and lets them simmer for a few minutes so the flavors meld. The gravy is key. Without the gravy, Salisbury steak would just be a hamburger without a bun. But with the gravy thick and rich and savory, it becomes something more. The gravy is made from beef broth, flour, and pan drippings, seasoned with a little Worcestershire sauce and onion powder. It has a deep, meaty flavor, and it coats the beef and soaks into the mashed potatoes, creating a cohesive, satisfying meal. The mashed potatoes are the same ones served with meatloaf, made from real potatoes, mashed with butter and milk until smooth and creamy. They are piled on the plate next to the Salisbury steak, and the gravy flows over both, creating a little pool that you can soak up with your dinner roll. The peas are canned, small and sweet, and they add a pop of color to the plate. Green and white and brown, the classic American color palette for dinner. Salisbury steak is ordered by people who want to feel like they are having a nice meal, something a step above a hamburger, something more refined. It is ordered by businessmen on their lunch break, by couples on a budget date night, by anyone who wants the comfort of ground beef, but with a little more ceremony. The oval shape matters. It signals intention, effort. The idea that this is not just a hamburger thrown on a plate, but a carefully prepared dish. The history of Salisbury steak is rooted in health food, oddly enough. It was named after Dr. James Salisbury, a 19th century physician who believed that a diet of ground beef would cure almost any ailment. His original recipe was plain ground beef, no gravy, no seasoning, just meat. Over time, the recipe evolved, and by the 1960s, Salisbury steak had become a diner staple, stripped of its health food origins and reimagined as comfort food. The portion is generous. 2 oval patties smothered in gravy, enough to fill you up without feeling overstuffed. You cut into the beef with the side of your fork, and it is tender, juicy, the texture somewhere between a meatloaf and a hamburger. The gravy adds richness, and the mashed potatoes provide a creamy contrast. You eat slowly, savoring each bite, mixing the peas into the potatoes, soaking up the gravy with your roll. There is something deeply satisfying about Salisbury steak, something that goes beyond the taste. It is the ritual of it, the presentation, the way the waitress sets it in front of you, and you know exactly what you are getting. It is not surprising. It is not challenging. It is familiar, reliable, and exactly what you want when you walk into a diner on a Tuesday evening. The fancy name does not fool anyone. Everyone knows that Salisbury steak is just a hamburger without a bun. But the name matters anyway, because it transforms the meal, gives it weight and legitimacy. You are not eating a hamburger for dinner. You are eating Salisbury steak. And that sounds like a real meal. Something substantial. Something worth $1.50. The art of the fancy name is knowing that people want to feel like they are eating well, even if they are eating cheaply. And Salisbury steak delivers on that promise. Chicken fried steak is not chicken. It is beef, a cheap cut like cube steak, pounded thin, dredged in flour, and fried until the crust is golden and crispy. It is served with white gravy, mashed potatoes, and green beans, and it costs $1.75. This is a southern dish that has migrated north, carried by cooks who learned it in Texas or Oklahoma and brought it to Ohio or Pennsylvania. The name is confusing to people who have never encountered it. Chicken fried steak sounds like it should involve chicken, but it does not. The name refers to the cooking method, not the meat. The steak is fried in the same way chicken is fried, dredged in seasoned flour and fried in hot oil until crispy. The result is a breaded steak, tender on the inside, crunchy on the outside, and covered in thick, creamy gravy. The cut of beef is important. Cube steak is a tough cut, usually from the round or shoulder, that has been mechanically tenderized, pounded with a meat mallet covered in small pyramid-shaped points. The pounding breaks down the muscle fibers, making the steak tender enough to eat. Without the pounding, this cut of beef would be too tough to chew. With it, it becomes the foundation of one of the most comforting meals in American cuisine. The breading process is simple. The cook sets up a dredging station, a bowl of flour seasoned with salt, pepper, and paprika, and a bowl of beaten eggs mixed with a little milk. Each piece of cube steak is dipped in the flour, then the egg wash, then back in the flour, coating it completely. The double dredging creates a thick crust that stays crispy even after the gravy is poured over it. The steak is fried in a cast iron skillet or a deep fryer, in oil hot enough to sizzle and bubble when the meat hits it. The steak fries for a few minutes on each side until the crust is golden brown and the beef is cooked through. Then it is drained on paper towels and placed on a plate, ready for gravy. The gravy is white, made from the pan drippings, flour, and milk, seasoned with salt and pepper. It is thick and creamy, almost like a bechamel, and it is poured generously over the steak, covering it completely. The gravy soaks into the breading, softening it slightly, creating a contrast between the crispy edges and the tender, gravy-soaked center. The meal is served with mashed potatoes and green beans, the same sides that accompany most diner dinners, and a dinner roll. You cut into the steak with a knife, sawing through the crispy crust and the tender beef, and you take a bite. The flavors are rich and savory, the texture a mix of crunchy and soft, and the gravy ties it all together. You eat it with your hands eventually because a fork and knife cannot capture every bite, and no one judges you for it. Chicken fried steak is a working-class meal, born in the South where beef was cheap and cooks had to make tough cuts palatable. It is fried food, heavy and indulgent, the kind of meal that sticks to your ribs and keeps you full for hours. When Southern cooks moved north during the Great Migration, they brought chicken fried steak with them, and it found a home in diners across the country. By the 1960s, chicken fried steak is on menus in Texas and Oklahoma and Arkansas, but also in Ohio and Michigan and Pennsylvania. It has crossed regional boundaries, carried by cooks and customers who crave the taste of home, and it has become part of the diner vernacular, a dish that everyone recognizes even if they do not know where it came from. The Southern migration is not just about people. It is about food, about culture, about the way meals travel and transform and take root in new places. Here is a radical idea. Breakfast all day. Not just pancakes at dinner, but eggs and bacon and hash browns at 11 at night if you want them. The diner does not care when you eat breakfast. The diner understands that time is a construct and hunger is real. And if you want scrambled eggs at midnight, the cook will crack them fresh and serve them with toast and jelly. This is revolutionary. In most restaurants, breakfast ends at 11 in the morning. After that, the breakfast menu disappears, and you are left with lunch and dinner options. But the diner rejects this tyranny of the clock. The diner says breakfast is not a time of day. It is a category of food, and you can have it whenever you want. The cook keeps breakfast ingredients on hand all day. Eggs in the walk-in, dozens of them, ready to be cracked. Bacon in the cooler, thick slices stacked and waiting. Hash browns, pre-shredded or made fresh from potatoes, stored in a container next to the grill. Pancake batter in a squeeze bottle, ready to pour. The breakfast infrastructure is always operational, always ready, because the diner knows that someone will walk in at 3 in the afternoon or 9 at night and order eggs. This flexibility is part of what makes the diner essential. It accommodates shift workers, people whose schedules do not align with traditional meal times. The factory worker who gets off third shift at 6 in the morning wants breakfast, but for him, it is dinner. The nurse coming off a double shift at midnight wants eggs because she has been working for 16 hours and breakfast food is what sounds good. The diner does not judge. The diner serves. Breakfast at odd hours tastes different. Eggs at midnight have a kind of transgressive quality, a sense that you are breaking the rules, even though there are no rules to break. The same scrambled eggs that are ordinary at 7 in the morning feel special at 11 at night, like you have discovered a secret. The bacon is just as crispy, the hash browns just as golden, but the context has changed, and that changes the experience. Some people order breakfast at odd hours because they are genuinely hungry for breakfast food. Others order it because they can, because the diner allows it, because there is something liberating about eating pancakes for dinner or a cheeseburger for breakfast. The diner does not impose structure. It offers options, and you choose. The breakfast all day philosophy is also practical. Breakfast items are cheap to make and quick to prepare. Eggs cook in minutes. Pancakes pour and flip in seconds. Bacon and sausage can be cooked in batches and held warm. Offering breakfast all day means the diner can serve customers quickly, regardless of what they order, and that efficiency benefits everyone. The menu does not distinguish between breakfast and non-breakfast hours. It is all one menu. Breakfast on one page, lunch and dinner on the other, and everything is available all the time. You can order eggs and a burger at the same meal if you want. You can have pancakes and a bowl of chili. The diner does not care. The diner is not here to tell you how to eat. This philosophy extends beyond breakfast. The diner is open to all possibilities, all combinations, all preferences. You want your burger without the bun? Fine. You want your eggs scrambled with cheese and onions? No problem. You want to substitute fruit for hash browns? Sure, if we have fruit, which we probably do not, but you can ask. The diner is fundamentally accommodating, fundamentally flexible, and the breakfast all-day philosophy is the clearest expression of that ethos. In a world of rules and restrictions, of things you cannot do and times you cannot eat, the diner is a haven. It says yes. It says eat what you want, when you want it, and we will make it for you. And that, more than anything else, is why people keep coming back. The patty melt is what happens when a cheeseburger and a grilled cheese fall in love. It is a hamburger patty, grilled onions, Swiss cheese, all pressed between 2 slices of rye bread and grilled until everything melts together. It is messy, indulgent, and costs 75 cents. And it is perhaps the greatest innovation in diner cuisine. The patty melt appears on diner menus sometime in the 1950s and becomes ubiquitous by the 60s. No one knows who invented it, and it does not matter. What matters is that someone, somewhere, looked at a hamburger and a grilled cheese sandwich and thought, what if we combine them? The result is genius. The construction is precise. The cook starts with the onions, sliced thin and grilled on the flat top until they are soft and caramelized, sweet and golden brown. This takes time, 15 or 20 minutes, and the cook usually makes a batch at the start of the shift, enough to last through lunch and dinner. The onions sit in a metal container next to the grill, staying warm, ready to be scooped onto patty melts and other sandwiches. The hamburger patty is cooked on the grill, the same quarter-pound patty used for regular burgers, seasoned with salt and pepper. While the patty cooks, the cook butters 2 slices of rye bread and places them butter side down on the grill. Our rye bread is traditional for patty melts, dark and slightly sour, a contrast to the sweet onions and rich beef. As the bread begins to toast, the cook places a slice of Swiss cheese on each piece, letting it start to melt. When the burger is done, the cook places it on one slice of bread, tops it with a generous portion of grilled onions, and covers it with the second slice of bread, cheese side down. Then he presses the sandwich with a spatula, flattening it slightly, encouraging the cheese to melt completely and the flavors to meld. He flips the sandwich once, letting both sides brown evenly, and when it is done, he cuts it diagonally and plates it with chips and a pickle. You pick up half of the patty melt, and immediately you understand why this sandwich exists. The rye bread is crispy and buttery. The cheese is melted and gooey. The onions are sweet and soft. And the beef is juicy and flavorful. Every bite is a combination of textures and tastes, salty and sweet, crunchy and soft, rich and tangy. The sandwich is messy, the cheese and onions and beef juices dripping onto the plate. But that is part of the experience. You cannot eat a patty melt neatly. You can only surrender to it. The patty melt is beloved by regulars. It is the sandwich you order when you are tired of hamburgers. When you want something different but not too different. When you want the comfort of familiar flavors arranged in a new way. It is also the sandwich you order when you are very hungry because it is substantial, filling, almost too much food, but not quite. The rye bread is what sets the patty melt apart. On white bread, it would just be a hamburger on toast. On a bun, it would be a cheeseburger with onions. But on rye, with the slight sourness of the bread cutting through the richness of the beef and cheese, it becomes something new, something distinct. The rye bread is essential, non-negotiable, and any diner that tries to make a patty melt on white bread is missing the point. The patty melt is a revelation, a reminder that sometimes the best ideas are the simplest ones, the obvious combinations that no one thought to try until someone did. It is not fancy. It is not trying to reinvent anything. It is just a cheeseburger and a grilled cheese, together at last. And it is perfect. The club sandwich is not a sandwich. It is architecture. 3 slices of toasted white bread, layered with turkey, bacon, lettuce, tomato, and mayonnaise, held together with toothpicks and cut into quarters. It arrives on a plate with chips and a pickle, and it is tall enough that you have to compress it with your hand to take a bite. The engineering of the club sandwich is precise. The cook starts with 3 slices of white bread, toasted until golden but not too dark. The toast is still soft in the middle, crispy on the edges, and it holds up under the weight of the fillings. The first layer is mayonnaise, spread generously on both sides of the bottom slice. Then comes turkey, sliced thin, 2 or 3 slices laid flat. Then bacon, 2 or 3 strips cooked crispy. Then lettuce, iceberg, torn into pieces that fit the shape of the bread. Then tomato, sliced thick, 1 or 2 slices depending on the size of the tomato. The middle slice of bread goes on next, mayonnaise on both sides. Then another layer of turkey, bacon, lettuce, and tomato, in the same order, the same proportions. The top slice of bread goes on last, mayonnaise on the bottom side, and the cook presses down gently, compressing the sandwich just enough to hold it together. Then comes the toothpick. 4 toothpicks, actually, 1 in each quarter, inserted at an angle through all 3 layers of bread and the fillings in between, spearing the sandwich and holding it together. The toothpicks are functional, but they are also decorative, tipped with colored cellophane frills, red or green or blue. A little flag that signals, this is not just a sandwich, but a construction project. The cook cuts the sandwich with a long serrated knife, corner to corner both ways, creating 4 triangular quarters. Each quarter is a complete sandwich, a perfect cross-section of all the layers, and they are arranged on the plate in a pinwheel pattern, the frilly toothpicks sticking up like tiny flags. Chips and a pickle spear complete the presentation. You pick up 1 quarter, holding it by the toothpick, and you examine it. The layers are visible, the white bread, the pink turkey, the red tomato, the green lettuce, the brown bacon, all stacked neatly. It looks almost too pretty to eat. But you are hungry, so you compress it with your hand, squeezing the layers together, and you take a bite. The flavors are clean and simple. The turkey is mild, the bacon is salty and smoky, the lettuce is crisp, the tomato is juicy, and the mayonnaise ties it all together, adding richness and moisture. The toast provides structure and a slight crunch, and the whole thing works in a way that is greater than the sum of its parts. This is not a groundbreaking sandwich. It is not trying to challenge you or surprise you. It is just turkey, bacon, lettuce, and tomato arranged in the most logical way possible, and it is exactly what you want. The club sandwich is ordered by people who want a substantial lunch, something more than a grilled cheese but less heavy than a burger. It is ordered by women who lunch, by businessmen on expense accounts, by anyone who wants to feel like they are eating well without spending too much. At $1.25, the club sandwich is one of the pricier items on the menu, but it is worth it for the sheer volume of food and the care that goes into the construction. The toothpicks are important. You cannot just cut a club sandwich without securing it first. The layers would slide apart, the fillings would fall out, and you would be left with a pile of ingredients instead of a sandwich. The toothpicks hold everything together, literally and metaphorically, turning a stack of bread and fillings into a unified whole. The club sandwich is engineering disguised as food, a lesson in structure and stability, a testament to the idea that with the right tools and the right technique, you can build something that is both beautiful and functional. And when you pull out that toothpick, and the sandwich holds together anyway, when you take that first bite, and everything works exactly as it should, you understand that the club sandwich is not just a meal, it is an achievement. Liver and onions is the dish that separates the generations. If you were born before 1935, you order it without hesitation. If you were born after 1950, you look at it like it crawled out of a medical textbook. Liver is cheap, nutritious, and widely available, and when it is cooked properly with onions and bacon, it is actually quite good. The generational divide over liver is stark. Older people, those who lived through the Depression or World War II, grew up eating liver regularly. It was inexpensive, packed with iron and vitamins, and every mother knew that liver was good for you, even if you hated it. Children were forced to finish their liver before they could leave the table, and the taste, metallic and strong, became associated with duty and obligation rather than pleasure. By the 1960s, liver is falling out of favor with younger people. The post-war generation raised on hamburgers and hot dogs and processed foods has no nostalgic attachment to liver. To them, it is organ meat, something that comes from inside an animal, and the very idea is the off-putting. They do not care that it is nutritious. They care that it tastes like iron and has a texture that is simultaneously firm and crumbly. But in the diner, liver and onions remains on the menu, ordered faithfully by older customers who still appreciate it. The cook prepares it simply. Beef liver, sliced thin, about 1/4 inch thick, dredged in flour, seasoned with salt and pepper. The liver is fried in a hot skillet with butter, cooked quickly so it stays tender and does not become tough and rubbery. Overcooked liver is a tragedy, gray and dry and bitter. Properly cooked liver is pink in the middle, tender, and has a rich, earthy flavor. The onions are sliced thick and sautéed until they are soft and caramelized, sweet and golden. The onions are essential. They balance the strong flavor of the liver, adding sweetness and texture. Some cooks add bacon, frying it first and using the bacon fat to cook the liver and onions. The bacon adds a smoky, salty note that complements the liver beautifully. The liver and onions are served with mashed potatoes and a vegetable, usually green beans or carrots, and the gravy from the pan is drizzled over everything. The meal costs $1.40, and it is filling and satisfying if you can get past the mental barrier of eating liver. The older customers eat it with relish, cutting the liver into small pieces, mixing it with the onions and the mashed potatoes, savoring the flavors. They remember when liver was a regular part of the diet, when it was served at home once a week, when no one questioned it. To them, liver and onions is comfort food, a taste of childhood, a connection to a time when food was simpler and eating liver was just what you did. The younger customers, if they order it at all, do so out of curiosity or at the urging of an older friend or relative. They take a tentative bite, chewing slowly, trying to get past the texture and the strong flavor. Some of them like it. Most do not. But even if they do not like it, they respect it, because they can see how much it means to the older generation, how it connects them to their past. The waitress knows who will order liver and onions before they open their mouths. She can tell by age, by the way they sit, by the confidence with which they scan the menu. She does not judge the younger customers who recoil at the idea of liver. She has seen it 1,000 times. But she smiles when an older customer orders it, because she knows that meal means something to them, that it is more than just food. Liver and onions is a generational marker, a culinary dividing line. On one side, people who grew up eating organ meat and see it as normal. On the other side, people who grew up eating processed foods and see organ meat as strange. The divide is not absolute, of course. There are young people who love liver and older people who hate it. But the general pattern holds, and in the diner, liver and onions remains a test. A way of sorting the generations, a dish that tells you something about who you are and where you came from. The milkshake is thick, not drinkable through a straw thick, but spoon thick, made with real ice cream and whole milk blended in a metal cup and served in a tall glass with the extra in the metal cup on the side. Chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, 40 cents. The straw is decorative. This is not a modern milkshake, thin and sweet and meant to be sipped quickly. This is a 1960s diner milkshake, and it has the consistency of soft-serve ice cream. When the waitress sets it in front of you, the straw is standing straight up in the middle, not leaning, not sinking, just standing there like a flagpole because the milkshake is too thick to allow it to move. The cook makes the milkshake behind the counter using a Hamilton Beach milkshake mixer, the kind with a metal cup that fits onto a spindle and a motor that spins it at high speed. He scoops ice cream into the metal cup, 3 generous scoops, and adds a splash of whole milk, maybe a quarter cup. Then he adds the flavoring. For chocolate, he uses chocolate syrup, squeezing it in a spiral over the ice cream. For vanilla, he uses vanilla extract, just a few drops. For strawberry, he uses strawberry syrup, or, if it is summer and strawberries are in season, fresh strawberries crushed with a little sugar. The cup goes onto the mixer, and the motor roars to life, spinning the cup and the contents inside. The ice cream and milk blend together, the mixer whipping air into the mixture, making it thick and creamy. After 30 seconds or so, the cook stops the mixer, lifts off the cup, and pours the milkshake into a tall glass, filling it about 3/4 full. The rest stays in the metal cup, which he sets on the counter next to the glass. You get the full batch, not just what fits in the glass. And that extra cup is a little bonus, a second serving waiting for you when you finish the first. You pick up the straw and try to take a sip. Nothing happens. The milkshake is too thick. The straw is useless, a decorative element that serves no functional purpose. You set the straw aside and pick up the long-handled spoon that came with the shake, and you dig in. The milkshake is cold and sweet and rich, the flavor of real ice cream, not ice milk or soft serve, but actual ice cream with butterfat and cream and sugar. The chocolate milkshake tastes like chocolate, dark and rich, not too sweet. The vanilla milkshake tastes like vanilla, with a slight eggy richness from the custard base of the ice cream. The strawberry milkshake tastes like strawberries, bright and fruity, with little bits of fruit if the cook used fresh berries. You eat the milkshake slowly because it is too cold to eat quickly. Brain freeze is a real risk. Each spoonful is dense and creamy, and it melts slowly on your tongue, releasing the flavor as it warms. You alternate between the glass and the metal cup, drinking from the glass until it is empty, then pouring more from the cup, extending the experience as long as possible. The milkshake is not health food. It is pure indulgence. Hundreds of calories of ice cream and milk and sugar. But in 1963, no one is counting calories. The milkshake is a treat, something you order on a hot day or after a good meal, or when you are celebrating something small, like getting an A on a test, or finishing a hard week at work. The thickness of the milkshake is a point of pride for the diner. A thin milkshake is a failure, a sign that the cook used too much milk or cheap ice cream or did not blend it properly. A thick milkshake is a success, proof that the diner cares about quality, that it is not cutting corners, that it is giving you the real thing. The spoon-thick milkshake is a standard, a benchmark, and every diner strives to meet it. When you finish the milkshake, the glass is empty, the metal cup is empty, and you feel full and satisfied and slightly guilty, because you just consumed 1,000 calories in 10 minutes. But it was worth it. Every spoonful was worth it. The milkshake that requires a spoon is one of the great pleasures of diner life, a simple joy that costs 40 cents and lasts just long enough to make you happy. The dinner special changes every night, and it is always the most food for the least money. Thursday might be pork chops with applesauce and mashed potatoes. Friday is always fried fish because Catholics still observe meatless Fridays, and the diner is happy to accommodate. Saturday might be roast beef with gravy and carrots, $2 at most. The dinner special is posted on a small chalkboard near the entrance or written on a paper insert tucked into the menu. The cook decides what the special will be based on what is available, what is affordable, and what he feels like making. There is a rhythm to it, a logic that has nothing to do with culinary trends and everything to do with practicality. If the meat supplier has a good deal on pork chops, Thursday becomes pork chop night. If the fish delivery comes in fresh on Friday morning, fried fish it is. The portions are generous, almost absurdly so. A dinner special is not a dainty plate with carefully arranged components. It is a plate piled high with protein, starch, and vegetable. Enough food to feed a grown man who has been working all day. The pork chops are thick, bone-in, pan-fried, until the edges are crispy and the inside is still juicy. The applesauce is sweet and cinnamon-spiced, served in a small bowl on the side. The mashed potatoes are real, made from scratch, and they come with a ladle of brown gravy that pools in the center. Friday fish is a ritual. The diner fills up with Catholic families, older couples who have been observing meatless Fridays since childhood, and anyone else who just likes fried fish. The fish is cod or haddock, fresh if possible, frozen if not, cut into thick fillets, dredged in seasoned flour or cornmeal, and fried in hot oil until the coating is golden and crispy. It is served with tartar sauce, coleslaw, French fries, and a lemon wedge. The fish is flaky and tender inside, crunchy outside, and it costs $1.75. The economics of the dinner special are fascinating. The diner is not making a huge profit on these meals. The margins are thin, sometimes almost non-existent. But the dinner special brings people in, fills the booths, and those people order coffee, pie, and extra sides. The dinner special is a loss leader, a way to get customers through the door. And once they are inside, they become part of the ecosystem. They tip the waitress, they tell their friends, they come back next week. The dinner special also creates loyalty. If you know that every Thursday the diner has pork chops, you start planning your week around it. Thursday becomes pork chop night, and you make sure you are free for dinner, and you bring your family or your friends. The diner becomes part of your routine, part of your life, and that kind of loyalty is worth more than the few cents lost on each plate. Saturday night might be roast beef, a large cut slow roasted in the oven until it is tender and pink in the middle, sliced thick and served with mashed potatoes, gravy, and roasted carrots. Or it might be ham, glazed with brown sugar and pineapple, served with sweet potatoes and green beans. The special changes, but the structure remains the same. Protein, starch, vegetable, bread, all for around $2. The waitress recommends the dinner special to anyone who looks uncertain. It is always a safe choice, always good value, and she knows it. She has probably eaten it herself during her break, sitting at the counter with a plate in front of her, taking a few minutes to rest her feet before the evening rush starts. If the special is good enough for her, it is good enough for you. The dinner special economy is built on volume, efficiency, and trust. The diner trusts that customers will come if the price is right. The customers trust that the diner will deliver quality food at that price. And night after night, the system works. The chalkboard is updated. The plates go out. The register rings. And everyone leaves satisfied. The jukebox sits in the corner, glowing softly, its mechanical pages flipping between songs when you press the buttons. 3 plays for $0.25. You choose carefully. Patsy Cline, Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison. The music is not background noise. It is part of the meal, part of the ritual, and when your song comes on, you feel a small thrill of ownership. The jukebox is a Wurlitzer or a Seeburg, chrome and colored lights, a piece of machinery that is also a piece of art. It stands against the wall or sits in an alcove, and it dominates the space, not with volume, but with presence. Even when it is not playing, you are aware of it. Aware that music could happen at any moment, that someone could drop a quarter and change the atmosphere of the entire diner. The selection process is deliberate. You walk over to the jukebox, pull a quarter from your pocket, and study the song list. The titles are printed on small cards arranged in rows, visible through a glass window, and you flip through them using the buttons on either side. Each flip reveals a new set of songs, and you read through them carefully, considering your options. This is not a casual decision. You are spending money, and you want to choose well. The songs are a mix of current hits and older standards, whatever the diner owner has decided to stock. In 1963, that might mean Elvis Presley, the Everly Brothers, Connie Francis, Patsy Cline, Buddy Holly, Roy Orbison, and a handful of big band standards for the older customers. The selection reflects the demographics of the diner, the tastes of the regular customers, and the preferences of the owner, who ultimately decides what goes in and what comes out. You make your selections. Maybe Patsy Cline, Crazy, maybe Buddy Holly, Peggy Sue, maybe Roy Orbison, Only the Lonely. You press the buttons, the letters and numbers that correspond to each song, and you hear a mechanical whir as the jukebox springs to life inside. The arm moves, the record is selected, the needle drops, and a moment later, music fills the diner. When your song plays, it is yours. Even though everyone in the diner can hear it, even though you are sharing the music with strangers, there is a sense of ownership. You chose this song. You paid for it. And for the next 3 minutes, this is your soundtrack. If you are eating alone, you listen carefully, savoring the lyrics, the melody, the emotion. If you are with someone, you might comment on the song, share a memory associated with it, or simply nod in appreciation. The jukebox creates moments. A couple slow dancing between the booths because their song came on. A group of teenagers singing along to a popular hit, laughing and tapping the table in rhythm. An older man closing his eyes and letting the music wash over him, transported back to a different time, a different place. The jukebox is more than entertainment. It is a time machine, a memory trigger, a communal experience disguised as individual choice. There is also strategy involved. If the diner is crowded and noisy, you might choose something upbeat, something that cuts through the noise. If it is late at night and quiet, you might choose something slower, something that matches the mood. If you are trying to impress someone, you choose a song that shows good taste, something classic or romantic or meaningful. The jukebox is a tool of expression, a way to communicate without speaking. Sometimes someone else's selection plays, and you hate it. A song you have heard too many times, or a song that does not fit the moment, or just a bad song. But you tolerate it because that is the social contract of the jukebox. Everyone gets to choose, and not every choice will be yours. The jukebox is democratic, a shared resource, and you accept the bad with the good. The cost is minimal. 3 songs for a quarter. At that rate, you can control the soundtrack of your entire meal for less than the cost of a cup of coffee. And if you are a regular, if you come in every week and play the same songs, the waitress and the cook and the other regulars start to associate those songs with you. They hear Patsy Cline and they think of you. The jukebox becomes part of your identity, part of how you are known in this small temporary community. The jukebox is analog, mechanical, breakable. Sometimes it jams. Sometimes a record gets scratched and skips. Sometimes it eats your quarter and plays nothing. But when it works, when the music flows seamlessly from one song to the next, when the atmosphere shifts and softens and everyone in the diner feels it, the jukebox is magic. Pure, simple magic. Sometimes you do not eat at the diner. Sometimes you call ahead and order food to go, and when you arrive, it is waiting for you in a brown paper bag with the top folded over twice and stapled shut. Inside are styrofoam containers, still warm, the burger wrapped in wax paper, the fries in a cardboard sleeve, the pie in a small aluminum tin. The to-go order is a different experience. You do not get the atmosphere, the coffee refills, the waitress who knows your name. You do not get to sit in the booth and watch the cook work. You get the food, packaged and portable, designed to travel the 10 or 15 minutes to your home without falling apart or getting cold. It is a compromise, but sometimes a compromise is what you need. You call the diner from your home phone, the one attached to the wall in the kitchen, and you place your order with whoever answers, usually the waitress or sometimes the cook if it is slow. You tell them what you want, they repeat it back to confirm, and they tell you it will be ready in 15 minutes. You thank them, hang up, and drive to the diner. When you arrive, the bag is sitting on the counter near the register, your name written on the outside in pencil or marker. You pay, the waitress thanks you, and you take the bag and leave. The whole transaction takes less than a minute. No sitting, no waiting, no small talk. Just food in a bag exchanged for cash. The packaging is functional. The styrofoam containers are white, segmented into compartments if the meal has multiple components, and they have lids that snap shut to keep everything in place. The burger's wrapped in wax paper, folded neatly so it does not leak, and the fries are in a paper sleeve or a small cardboard container. Still hot and crispy. If you ordered soup, it comes in a smaller styrofoam container with a plastic lid, sealed tight to prevent spills. If you ordered pie, it is in a disposable aluminum tin, the kind with a clear plastic dome on top so you can see what you are getting. The paper bag is sturdy, grease-resistant, designed to hold hot food without falling apart. The top is folded over twice, a simple but effective closure, and stapled shut to keep everything secure. Sometimes there are napkins inside, a handful of them, and plastic utensils if you ordered something that requires them. Sometimes there is a small container of ketchup, or mustard or tartar sauce, the kind with the peel-back lid. You carry the bag carefully, holding it from the bottom to support the weight, and you drive home. The smell fills the car, the smell of burgers and fries and coffee, and it is distracting in the best way. You are hungry and the food is right there, within reach, and you have to resist the temptation to open the bag and steal a fry while you are driving. When you get home, you unpack the bag on the kitchen table or the coffee table, opening each container, unwrapping the burger, arranging everything so you can eat. The food is still warm, not as hot as it would be if you had eaten at the diner, but warm enough. You eat with your hands, no plates, no ceremony, just food and hunger and satisfaction. The to-go order lacks the ritual of dining in. There is no waitress, no jukebox, no booth. But it has its own appeal. It is convenient. It is fast. And it allows you to eat diner food in your own space, on your own terms, in your pajamas if you want. You can watch television while you eat, or read the newspaper, or just sit in silence, and no one is watching, no one is judging. The to-go order is also a lifeline for people who cannot get out. The mother with small children who cannot wrangle them into a booth. The factory worker on a tight schedule who needs to eat and get back. The elderly person who no longer drives but has a friend who can pick up food. The to-go order extends the reach of the diner beyond its four walls, bringing the food to people wherever they are. When you are done eating, you gather up the wrappers and containers and styrofoam, and you throw them away. There is no dishwashing, no cleanup beyond wiping your hands on a napkin. The to-go order is efficient, disposable, designed for a world that is increasingly mobile and fast-paced. And even though it is not the same as eating at the diner, even though something is lost in the translation, the food still tastes good. The burger is still a burger. The fries are still fries. And for a moment, in your own home, you have brought a piece of the diner with you. It is 2 a.m. now, and the diner is still open. The lights are bright, almost too bright, and the booths are mostly empty except for a few insomniacs, shift workers coming off third shift, and a couple of teenagers who have nowhere else to go. The waitress is reading a paperback at the counter. The cook is smoking a cigarette by the back door. The late-night diner is a different place. The energy is shifted. The urgency of the dinner rush is gone, replaced by a kind of quiet stillness, a sense that time has slowed down or stopped altogether. The people who are here at 2 a.m. are not here because they want to be. They are here because they need to be, because they are hungry or lonely, or simply awake when the rest of the world is asleep. The shift worker sits at the counter, still wearing his factory uniform, and he orders breakfast: eggs, bacon, toast, coffee. For him, this is dinner. He has been working since 6 p.m, and now his shift is over, and he needs food before he goes home to sleep. He eats slowly, methodically, and the waitress refills his coffee without asking. They do not talk much. There is an understanding between them, a recognition that they are both awake at an hour when most people are not. The insomniacs sit alone in booths, nursing cups of coffee, staring at nothing. They have been awake for hours, unable to sleep, and the diner is the only place open, the only place with lights and people and the promise of human contact. They do not order much, a piece of pie maybe, or a bowl of soup. The food is not the point. The point is to be somewhere other than home, somewhere that is not dark and quiet and isolating. The teenagers are loud, laughing, talking over each other, their energy out of sync with the rest of the diner. They have been driving around, going to parties, or the drive-in movie. And now they are here, eating fries and sharing a milkshake, stretching out the night as long as possible. They do not want to go home. Home means parents and curfews and the end of freedom. The diner is a refuge, a place where they can be themselves without supervision. The waitress has been on shift since 6 in the evening. She is tired, her feet hurt, and she wants to go home, but she does not complain. This is the job. The late night shift pays the same as the day shift, and someone has to do it. She reads her book, a paperback romance or mystery, something to pass the time between customers. When someone new walks in, she sets the book down, picks up the coffee pot, and goes to work. The cook has been here even longer. He started at noon, and he will not leave until the morning cook arrives at 6. He is exhausted, running on coffee and cigarettes, and his movements are slower now, less precise. But he still makes the food, still cracks eggs, and flips burgers and toasts bread, because that is what he does. The late-night orders are simpler, mostly breakfast and sandwiches, nothing complicated, and he is grateful for that. The diner at 2 in the morning is a sanctuary for people on the margins of normal life, people whose schedules do not fit the 9-to-5 world, whose lives happen at odd hours, who need a place to sit and eat and exist without explanation. The diner does not judge. It does not ask questions. It simply stays open, keeps the coffee brewing, and provides a space for whoever needs it. There is something peaceful about the late-night diner, despite the harsh lighting and the hum of the fluorescent bulbs. The pace is slower. The pressure is off. You can sit for an hour and no one will rush you. You can order just coffee and pie, and the waitress will not make you feel like you should order more. The late-night diner operates by different rules, unspoken but understood, and the people who are there know them instinctively. Outside, the streets are empty. Inside, the diner glows like a beacon, a small island of light and warmth in the darkness. It is not home, but it is home-like. It is familiar, predictable, safe. And for the people who are awake at 2 in the morning, who are wandering or working or simply unable to sleep, the diner is exactly what they need. A sanctuary, a refuge, a place that never closes. The check arrives face down on a small tray, written in pencil on a green and white pad. The math is simple. Burger, fries, Coke, coffee. $2.30. You leave $3 on the table, which includes a generous tip, and the waitress thanks you by name as you leave. The register dings. The door swings shut behind you. And for a moment, everything feels right. The check is handwritten, each item listed with its price, the total calculated at the bottom. There are no printed receipts, no computerized systems, just the waitress and her pencil, and her ability to add numbers quickly in her head. She brings the check to your table when you are clearly done eating, when your plate is empty and you have set down your fork, and she places it face down on the table, a small act of discretion. You do not have to look at it immediately. You can finish your coffee, sit for a few more minutes, and when you are ready, you flip it over and see what you owe. The prices are low enough that you rarely question them. $2.30 for a full meal is reasonable, expected, and you reach for your wallet without hesitation. You pull out $3 bills, leaving them on the table next to the check, and you stand up. The extra 70 cents is the tip, roughly 30%, more than the standard 15%, but not extravagant. The waitress has been attentive, the food was good, and the extra money feels right. The waitress sees you stand, sees the money on the table, and she comes over to collect it. She picks up the bills, glances at the check, and she thanks you by name. "Thanks, Charlie. See you next week." Her voice is warm, genuine, and you nod and smile and say something like, "You bet," or "Take care." The transaction is complete, but it is more than a transaction. It is a moment of connection, a small ritual that acknowledges the relationship between you and the waitress, between customer and server, between two people who see each other regularly and have built something that resembles friendship. You walk to the door, and on your way out, you might nod to the cook through the window or wave to another regular sitting at the counter. The diner is a community, and leaving is like leaving a gathering, a small social event rather than just the end of a meal. The door swings open. The bell above it rings softly, and you step out into the night, or the afternoon, or the morning, depending on when you came in. Behind you, the waitress carries the money to the register. She rings up the check, the register dings, and the cash drawer pops open, and she makes change even though you did not ask for it. She puts your $2.30 in the drawer, and she pockets the 70-cent tip, adding it to the pile of dimes and quarters and dollar bills she has accumulated over the course of her shift. At the end of the night, she will count it, and if it is a good night, she will have $20 or $30 in tips, enough to make the sore feet and the long hours worthwhile. The ritual of the check and the tip is simple, but it is weighted with meaning. The tip is not just money. It is acknowledgement, appreciation, a way of saying thank you for the service, for the refills, for the smile and the small talk and the efficiency. A good tip says, "I see you. I value what you do." A bad tip, or no tip at all, says the opposite, and the waitress remembers. For the customer, the ritual is satisfying. You walked in hungry, you ate well, you paid a fair price, and you left a tip that felt generous without being excessive. You did your part. You participated in the system. And now you are walking out into the world, full and content, with a small sense of having done something right. The diner continues without you. The waitress clears your table, wipes it down with a damp rag, resets it with clean silverware and napkins. The cook keeps cooking. New customers walk in, sit down, order food. The cycle repeats over and over, hour after hour, day after day. The diner is a machine, but it is a human machine, powered by people who show up and do the work and take care of each other in small, quiet ways. And you, walking to your car or down the street, you carry the memory of the meal with you, the taste of the burger, the warmth of the coffee, the sound of the register dinging as you left. The diner is not just a place to eat. It is a place where rituals are observed, where small acts of kindness and commerce are repeated until they become part of the fabric of daily life. The check, the tip, the thank you, the door swinging shut. It is simple, it is ordinary, and it is exactly enough. There is a booth in the back corner, third one from the window, and it has become yours without anyone ever saying so. You sit there every time you come in, and the waitress knows to save it if she sees you walking up. No name is carved into the table, no reservation sign marks it, but everyone understands. This is your booth. The claiming of a booth is gradual, accidental at first. The first time you sat there, it was simply the booth that was available, the one that happened to be open when you walked in. But you sat there again the next time, and the time after that, and slowly, over weeks and months, it became a pattern. Now when you walk through the door, you automatically turn toward that booth, and if someone else is sitting there, you feel a small jolt of displacement, a sense that something is wrong with the world. The booth holds your history. You have eaten hundreds of meals here, celebrated small victories, nursed disappointments, made decisions while staring at the laminated menu you know by heart. The vinyl seat has molded slightly to your shape. You know exactly how the table wobbles, Which corner needs a folded napkin underneath to stabilize it? You know the view from this booth, what you can see and what you cannot. Who walks past on the sidewalk outside? Which part of the kitchen is visible through the service window? Other regulars have their booths too. The older couple who come in every Sunday after church sit in the booth by the front window. The businessman who works late sits at the first booth near the door so he can leave quickly when his food arrives. The teenager who does homework while eating fries sits in the booth near the jukebox. The diner is a constellation of claimed spaces, territories marked by habit rather than ownership. The waitress respects these unspoken arrangements. If your booth is occupied when you arrive, she might apologize, explain that a party of 6 needed the space, and guide you to another booth with the understanding that this is temporary, not permanent. She knows you will return to your regular booth next time. She might even tell the people sitting in your booth that someone usually sits there, not to make them move, just as a point of information, a recognition that the social geography of the diner is complex and meaningful. Sitting in your booth is comfortable in a way that goes beyond the physical. It is psychological comfort, the comfort of routine and familiarity. You do not have to orient yourself, do not have to figure out where to look or how the light falls. You know this space. You have inhabited it so many times that it feels like an extension of your own home. The diner may be public space, but this booth, at least while you are sitting in it, is yours. Sometimes you bring people to your booth, a friend, a date, a family member. You say, "This is where I always sit," and they understand that you are letting them into your space, sharing something personal. They look around, trying to see what you see, trying to understand why this booth matters. Most of them do not get it, not fully, but they appreciate the gesture. The booth holds memories that no one else knows. The conversation you had here with your father before he died. The job offer you accepted while sitting in this seat. The breakup that happened over coffee and pie. The tears you tried to hide. The napkin you shredded while trying to hold yourself together. The booth is a witness to your life, a silent participant in moments both significant and mundane. When you are away for a while, when you travel or get busy or simply do not come in for a few weeks, you wonder if the booth misses you. You wonder if the waitress notices your absence, if she glances at the empty booth and thinks about you. When you finally return, when you slide back into that familiar seat and the waitress greets you with genuine warmth, it feels like coming home. The booth has been here, waiting, and now you are back where you belong. The booth that became yours is a small miracle of human behavior. The way we create meaning and attachment from repetition. The way we claim space without owning it. The way a simple vinyl seat and a formica table can become sacred through ritual. It is not rational. It is deeply human. And it matters. There are things on the menu that used to be there and are not anymore. Items that were crossed out in pen, or covered with a piece of tape, or simply removed when the menu was reprinted. Cream chipped beef on toast, liver sausage sandwich, tomato aspic salad. These dishes did not survive the 1960s casualties of changing tastes and evolving food culture. Cream chipped beef on toast, affectionately known as shit on a shingle by military veterans who ate it in the service, was a breakfast staple for decades. Dried beef, rehydrated and cooked in a white cream sauce poured over toast. It was cheap, filling, and required minimal ingredients. But by the mid-60s, it was falling out of favor. Younger customers found it unappetizing, the name was off-putting, and the dish carried associations with wartime rationing and hardship. Gradually, diners stopped ordering it, and cooks stopped making it, and one day it disappeared from the menu entirely. Liver sausage sandwiches suffered a similar fate. Liver sausage, also called liverwurst, was popular in the 40s and 50s, a cheap protein that could be sliced and served on rye bread with mustard and onions. But as processed meats like bologna and salami became more widely available and less stigmatized, liver sausage fell out of favor. The younger generation, raised on Wonder Bread and Oscar Mayer, wanted nothing to do with organ meat spreads. The liver sausage sandwich lingered on some diner menus into the mid-60s, but it was ordered less and less frequently until finally it was gone. Tomato aspic salad was a different kind of casualty. This was a gelatin salad made with tomato juice or vate, set in a mold with vegetables suspended inside, and served on a bed of lettuce with a dollop of mayonnaise. It was considered elegant, refined, a way to elevate vegetables into something special. Housewives made tomato aspic for bridge club luncheons and church socials. Diners served it as a side dish or a light lunch option. But by the late 60s, gelatin salads were becoming passé, seen as old-fashioned and unappealing. The texture was off-putting to younger diners, and the idea of vegetables suspended in sweetened gelatin seemed strange. Tomato aspic disappeared quietly, unmourned except by the older generation who remembered it fondly. Other items vanished too. Welsh rarebit, a cheese sauce served over toast, was once a standard lunch item, but faded as simpler options like grilled cheese became more popular. Baked beans on toast, a British import that had a brief moment in American diners, disappeared as taste shifted away from British-influenced food. Deviled ham sandwiches, made from canned potted meat, were victims of the growing suspicion of processed foods. The menu items that disappeared tell a story about changing America. The post-war generation, coming of age in the 60s, wanted different foods than their parents. They wanted hamburgers and French fries, not cream-chipped beef. They wanted tuna melts and club sandwiches, not liver sausage on rye. The diner menu evolved to accommodate these preferences, and in the process, entire categories of food were left behind. Some of the disappeared items survive in regional pockets. Certain diners in the Midwest still serve cream-chipped beef for breakfast. A few old-school Jewish delis still offer liver sausage. But these are exceptions, holdouts against the tide of change. For the most part, these dishes have been relegated to cookbooks and memories, eaten now only by people old enough to remember when they were commonplace. The cook knows which items disappeared and when. He remembers making tomato aspic every morning, the way it would set in the walk-in overnight, the way he would slice it carefully and arrange it on plates with lettuce and mayonnaise. He remembers the regular customers who ordered it, the older ladies who considered it a proper lunch, and he remembers when they stopped ordering it, when it sat in the walk-in untouched until he finally threw it away and stopped making it. The menu items that disappeared are ghosts, invisible but present. They haunt the laminated pages, the spaces where they used to be, the memory of the waitress who remembers writing them down, the cook who remembers making them. They are part of the diner's history, part of the story of how American food changed in the 20th century. And though they are gone, they are not entirely forgotten. It is 1968 now. The booth is empty, the plate cleared away, the check paid and folded into the waitress's apron. Outside, the world is changing faster than anyone can track. There are protests in the streets, wars on television, rockets pointed at the moon. The country is splitting apart and stitching itself back together over and over, and no one knows what comes next. But inside the diner, the rhythm holds. The coffee percolates, the grill sizzles, the jukebox plays Patsy Cline, and someone orders pie, and the waitress writes it down without looking at her pad because she already knows. The laminated menu sits in its holder, sticky and familiar, listing meals that cost less than a movie ticket and taste like every Tuesday you have ever lived through. The diner menus of the 1960s were not just lists of food. They were contracts, promises that if you showed up hungry, you would leave satisfied, and it would not cost you more than a few dollars. They were artifacts of an economy that no longer exists, a time when a housewife could stretch $3 into dinner for $5, when a factory worker could eat a full breakfast for under $1, when food was fuel and nobody pretended otherwise. Those menus are gone now. Not just the prices, though the prices are laughable by modern standards, but the whole philosophy behind them. The idea that food should be cheap, fast, and abundant. The idea that a diner could serve everyone, every day, without apology or pretension. The idea that you could sit at a counter next to a stranger and share a meal in companionable silence. And that was enough. That was community. Some of those diners are still out there. Scattered across the country, stubborn holdouts refusing to become something else. The booths are still vinyl. The coffee is still infinite. The waitress still knows your name. But they are rare now, endangered, fighting against rising rents and changing tastes and the relentless march of everything new. They survive because enough people remember, because enough people still walk through that door and order the blue plate special, because enough people understand that some things are worth keeping exactly as they are. The meals housewives swore by are mostly gone. Creamed chipped beef, liver and onions, Salisbury steak served with a side of canned peas. These were not glamorous dishes. They were practical, economical, and honest. They filled bellies and stretched budgets and got families through the week. And for a brief window of time, you could find them on every diner menu in America, listed in that same industrial typeface, priced at $1.50 or less. What we lost when we lost those menus was not just cheap food. It was a kind of accessibility, a culture that said everyone deserves a hot meal and a place to sit, and you do not have to dress up or make a reservation or pretend to be someone you are not. The diner was democratic in a way that almost nothing else was. It did not care who you were or where you came from. It cared that you were hungry, and it fed you, and it did it the same way for everyone. The world kept turning. Fast food got faster. Restaurants got fancier or cheaper, or both. The diner menu became a relic, a curiosity, something people looked at with nostalgia or confusion, wondering how anyone survived on food, that plain, that simple, that inexpensive. But the people who lived through it, who ate those meals day after day, who sat in those booths and drank that coffee and left those tips, they know. They remember exactly what it tasted like, exactly what it meant, and they know that something was lost when it disappeared. Tonight, if you are lucky, you can still find a diner menu from the 1960s tucked into a drawer or hanging on a wall in some small town off the highway. You can still order a cheeseburger and fries for a reasonable price, still sit at a counter and watch the cook work, still feel the vinyl squeak under you as you slide into a booth. It will not be exactly the same. It cannot be. But it will be close enough to remember, close enough to matter. The jukebox has gone quiet now. The last customer has left. The waitress is wiping down the counter, the cook is scraping the grill, and the neon sign outside flickers once, twice, and stays lit. Tomorrow it will start again. The coffee will brew, the eggs will crack, the register will ding. And for a few more hours, a few more meals, a few more moments, the diner will do what it has always done. It will feed you. It will ask for very little in return. And it will remind you quietly, without saying a word, that some things do not need to change to be perfect. They just need to be there, steady and reliable, waiting for you to walk through that door and sit down and say, the usual. That was enough then. It is still enough now.